attitude, gratitude. Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me, once again, is the one, the only Assistant Chief of Operations, John Feddma.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I feel a little nervous, but I don't know that I'll be quite as nervous as Evan was last week, but that was still fun, though.
We would have to dump a bucket of water over you to get that much sweat. Really?
That would be that wouldn't be good, but it was nice. I think Jonah did a good job editing, some of that stuff out. So I think the end result was good, and Evan did a great job. He's got a cool story.
He has a great story, and because of that story, I never expected him to be as nervous as he was when he came in. And we had a conversation for like 30 minutes before anything happened. But as soon as Jonah turned the lights on, he's like, "Oh my, what?" But he did really well. And
that was good.
I think he chose the right career field for himself.
I do. I agree. Yeah, I think it was good choice.
Yeah, being in the fire service, and we want to talk about that again this week because we are still promoting that our firefighter application period is open. Yep. The three of you that watch this podcast, if you want to be firefighters, feel free to submit an application. We're pretty open right now.
Yeah, but good chances.
Good chances, but we do have expectations for new firefighters, and you are the operations chief, so you're responsible for that entire division. So, John, what are you looking for in a new firefighter?
Well, I think even go back, obviously last week you had Evan, but go before that you had Zach and Leslie on, and those are the examples. Those are even Evan. Those are all the folks that those are the qualities that we're looking for. And ultimately, we want, looking at abroad, we want good people who want to work for this organization and want to work in the fire service. It's a service industry, and you serve people. And it's not always, the experience is not always the same. You go from, changing a smoke detector battery to, extricating somebody from a car accident. There's a lot of different experiences. So it takes a certain personality to, enjoy that. To thrive in that environment. And so that's, part of the process that we have in selecting people. But ultimately, we want good people that want to be here.
Yeah. People of high moral standards, impeccable character. And, to your point, we do the Fire Ops 101. Now, we couldn't do it in 2020 for reasons that we won't discuss, or 2021 for the same reasons we won't discuss. However, we had one of our community leaders here, Ron Fain, who went through the program. And at the end of the day, he said, what really struck me that I never thought about it for firefighters is the breadth of knowledge that they have to have. He said to go from that medical call, cardiac arrest, to a structure fire, to a motor vehicle crash, he said just in having to shift the way your mind is working from one to the other, and then have to do it at 2:00 in the morning.
That's always tough.
Yeah.
And I think go back to, in terms of expectations, a lot of what we talk about when we are, talking to the recruits, talking to folks that want to get hired, is we're looking for the heart to be here.
Yeah.
Because there is so much that goes on, so much learning that has to be done throughout the course of your career. You never can stop because there's something always changing. The environment's always changing. The challenges, go look at, solar these days.
Right.
It's always changing. So you have to be willing to want to learn and want to, aggressively improve yourself your whole career. And so that's what it takes a lot of heart to want to do that and to be the right personality to get up at 2 a.m. and go to someone's house with a smile on your face, no matter what their situation is. People never call us in a good situation.
No.
It's always in their worst moments is when they're calling for support. And we have to be able to provide calm when we get there.
Right.
And be able to provide an answer, even though we don't necessarily know what the answer is.
Right.
That's our job. And you look at what ultimately the academy is for. We teach skills, but we're evaluating the heart. Do you have the desire to be here? Do you have the desire to continue to push forward when you're tired, when you're worn out, when it's 2 a.m?
Right.
That's what we want to look for. And that's what, when we refine, when we do look at the academy and try to, pull that out, we're teaching knowledge,
Yes.
But at the same time, we're evaluating what someone's made of. Do they want to be here, or are they going to be at 2 a.m? Are they going to be dragging the rest of the team down?
Well, and it's that servant's heart, right? And over years, we joke that it turns black, and part of that is just the humor that you have to have in this profession because of the things that you're going to be exposed to. Yeah. And that's one of the areas that we're really working on here for our folks and new folks coming in is setting expectation up front. That's somewhere where the fire service has fallen short in years past. And now we're trying to talk about up front, here's some of the things that you may see, some of the things that you may experience, and set that expectation, because if you have the expectation, then you can get through the moment.
Yes.
And then after that, you can have the conversation with your crew. But it's really being able to maintain that servant's heart and remember throughout your career why you chose to be here.
Yeah.
The reality is you came to us, you filled out the application, you said, I want to work here.
Yeah.
Great. Now you're here. And so we want people that are going to remember. Here's why I got into this profession. It was to serve others in the community, and not just to serve, but I think part of our overarching philosophy for our agency is go beyond the expectations of the customer. And I think that's why we have such great support in our community, is because people see our folks go above and beyond all the time. Yeah. And honestly, it doesn't matter what division. You see Jonah's division going above and beyond. I'm pointing. I'm looking that way and pointing because he just walked that way.
Walking around, yes.
But it's just the people that work for CAFMA want to do more for the people that we serve, internally and externally.
I think that goes back to when we looking for people, what are we looking for? And I think those are the characteristics that we're looking for.
Right.
And I think, it's represented in all divisions of this organization, people going above and beyond. And I think part of that comes into, we have a lot of people that are vested in this community.
Right.
They want to see the community strengthened. Mm-hmm. We live here, we work here, we have family here. And like you said, we want this agency to grow and be the best it can be.
Right.
Partly because it supports our own family here.
It does.
Our neighbors, and we have a lot of folks that do a lot of good at all levels.
Yeah, and I live and pay taxes in this community, so I want good service. And the good thing is, when I pay my taxes, I'm actually paying me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the circle of life for the money.
Yep.
Right?
Comes back around.
Pay it out, and then I get it back. Then I pay it out again. I don't know. Either way, the commitment to the community is here. And I think a lot of folks grew up in this community or grew up in this state, but I moved here from somewhere else, and I have to say that I've never worked anywhere that had a what I believe is the culture of this organization. And we can look at culture in a number of different ways. And I know we asked that in a recent promotional interview. Yep. What's the culture? And what we found was nobody could define it. They couldn't define it, and if you can't define it, then you can't describe it. So that's what I'm writing about this week in the review. But the interesting part of working for a fire department is that it's not just one fire department. Because the reality is we have 160 individual people. We have 10 fire stations, which means on 3 different shifts. So you multiply that, we have 30 different fire departments.
Yeah.
And it's your responsibility to oversee those.
That's true. That's challenging at times.
And to try to keep them in line. I like something that you said the other day. I think it was very profound, because we're working through challenges. When you have this many people, you have challenges from time to time. And I said something about whack-a-mole, and you said the challenge really is deciding what size hammer to use for each mole as it pops up. And I've shared that with several people since then, and they said, wow, there's a lot of insight to that. And I was talking.
I don't know how deep that actually went, but I think maybe at the time I wanted to use a really big hammer, but it was probably a small issue. Right.
Well, see, sometimes you say stuff that's just really smart and you don't even know it.
I probably say a lot of dumb things too that I don't realize either.
So do I. But I thought, wow, that's really cool, because we have a culture of accountability, but it's not one size hammer fits all.
That's true. Yes.
It's the right size hammer. And why is it a culture of accountability, and why is that important? Because if an organization sets standards but doesn't hold people accountable to the standards, those folks who are really good employees that are trying to maintain the standard and do the work, eventually will look around and say, why am I working so hard?
Yes.
If this person's getting away with not doing anything,
Sure.
why do I have to do it? And I think that's one of the things that we do well here at CAFMA is we do have a culture of accountability, and that means we choose the right hammer. Is it a little baby ball peen or is it a giant sledgehammer? Yeah. And it's just an analogy. We don't hit people.
That's good clarification.
Yeah, we need to clarify that. But we try to instill that in our folks. We said these are our standards. This is what we live up to. And if you want to know more about our philosophy, our values, and culture, that's the reason we created the compass.
Yes. And I want to go back, just going back to the hammer and the moles. I think it's also important to understand that something I have learned being in the position for over a year now, trying to make sure you balance, all that accountability with a little bit of grace and a little bit of mercy throughout the whole part of it, knowing that everybody's going to make a mistake, including myself. And I think take that beyond this organization, there is no grace, no mercy given. And I think even inside of our organization, you see that as well.
Right.
If you're sitting in the hot seat, you're asking for that. But if someone else is sitting in that hot seat, you're looking at them, with a microscope saying, well, I feel better because you've done worse.
Right.
And in the position that I'm in, it's taking all that out of it.
Right.
And trying to make sure that what is done is appropriate. What is done represents, a level of accountability, but also that level of grace and mercy that should be afforded to everybody, and regardless of the circumstances. So that's something that I think I'm losing my hair and my blood pressure has gone up. But that's the goal, and I think that's the organization we have. And again, we want and looking for people that want to be a part of that.
Right. Well, and I think when we talk about culture and we talk about those types of things, people clamor for consistency. Sure. But I think in the fire service, when we're talking about consistency, what they're asking for is an exact duplicate of everything. If this, then this, period. Every shift, every station. There is no way. We have 160 people here. We don't have 160 clones, and we wouldn't want 160 clones because everybody brings something a little bit different to the table. So the way I look at it is somebody asks me, what's the organizational culture? Well, there's the overarching culture that we spell out, that we strive for, and that we spell out in the compass. Yeah. But you and I both know that if you go to Station 53 on A shift and you go to Station 61 on A shift, two different worlds. Yeah. And not because of where they're located, there's just different people there.
Sure.
And that's any station on every shift. So we set the overarching, but then there's rails.
Yes.
Work within these rails, and that's where we get consistency. Yeah. But it's not the exact same.
No. And I think it's interesting. I got to do an interprobation, and actually it was Adam Croft's interprobation for engineer.
Oh, he wants to be on the podcast, I hear.
It's true.
Yeah.
Next week would be a great opportunity.
Perfect.
But it was in probation. I think it was interesting talking with him because he had recently gotten the opportunity to sit on the oral board for the engineer's test. And one of the things he expressed in that conversation was he wishes he could have the candidates could have seen the deliberation for the different decisions that were made for the answers that were given in the oral board, because he was part of the oral board, and there were some challenging decisions they had to make as a group, just based on the answers that people gave in that test. And so he said some of his frustration was like there was all this deliberation that no one saw. All they get to see is the end result and the end score. And they don't realize, he said, I wish somebody could be a fly on the wall in that room to understand all that was done in the course of that decision, but they never get to see that.
Right.
Because they get to see only the end result. And I think hopefully people understand that for all decisions that are made here. And I think that requires a level of trust for you, for me, for everybody else that is having to sit and make the decisions, whether it's even on an engineer's oral board, to know that we're working for the best of intentions for the organization and the people.
Right.
And again, to take it back to who we're looking for, we want the same folks that are going to come in and do that. It's not a self-serving, organization. It's trying to build together. And what people don't understand with all the decisions that come out, whether it's discipline or whether it's anything else, you don't get to see the rest of the story.
Well, and we can look at the analogy of the duck who looks calm on top of the water, but their feet are just spinning underneath, or an iceberg. All you're seeing is this little piece of it, but it's massive under the water. There's a lot more that happens. And I think Bob Curry, our current union VP, has voiced that recently. He said, wow, my eyes have been open to everything that goes into these decisions and all of these things happening all the time, and having to evaluate where we're at. And a culture of accountability is important, but understand accountability. If you do something really bad, you're going to suffer the consequences, no matter what that is. And that's, we have a culture of family. We support family. We care for each other. Caring for each other doesn't mean that we don't hold people accountable.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that there aren't significant consequences depending on what happens. Sure. It doesn't mean we don't care, but there are rails.
Yeah.
And those rails exist for a reason, and some of them aren't rails we created. They're for outside people. I think another part of culture that we strive for is inclusiveness. Doesn't matter your background, race, gender, religion, orientation, whatever it is. If you're a CAFMA family member, you're a CAFMA family member, and and we want to treat you that way. I don't know about you, but in my family, like when I was a kid and I did something stupid, I got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I guess I could have gone back to my dad and argued that, Dad, come on, man, we're family. You just have to just look past what I did because we're family. Just let it go. Yeah. And that's not how that works. No. I think the other part of the inclusiveness is giving people, and this is what I like about our organization as well, giving people a voice. Mm-hmm. Give them the opportunity for input. Doesn't mean you're going to get what you want,
sure,
but we'll hear your input on it, and then collectively we'll make a decision. And I'll go back to, we have 160 people currently. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we don't always agree.
No, and I think it goes in those moments, like I say, trying to listen, trying to make sure process it, trying to include that information, but ultimately people need to understand at the end of it, like I say, one decision is being made, and you can look at all the employees, and we would not get a unanimous decision on really anything, and even now, being able to walk away and agree to disagree at that point, like, here's the end result. You can disagree with that, but what direction is the organization going?
Sure.
We hope that everybody is going to be on board and support that. Even if you don't agree with every little nuance of how we change, whether it's a hose load or you look at the SCBAs and talk about the apparatus design and all that kind of stuff, we would hope that the end result is support for the organization moving forward and to do your best to do your job.
Right, exactly.
Ultimately, we're a service industry where we're out there helping the public. Sometimes we lose sight of how good that is because of disagreements along the way.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And I think there's agencies that we look to and say, they're doing some good things. Yeah. And we do look around. We do want that global perspective of here's something good, here's something not good. Yeah. And remember, just because they're a big organization and they're doing X doesn't mean that X is the right thing to do.
Yes, that's true.
There is an art and a science to being a firefighter that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah.
We don't just go in and break things. We do, unless you're Mongo. We don't run into a burning building without thinking about everything that's around it. And I don't think the public realizes that. They just see us pull up on a scene, grab the hose and run inside, and all of the things that first in company officer is processing as they're pulling up, from the time that they see the plume of smoke and to when they get in front of the house, they're processing what's happening, making a plan, do the 360
risk analysis, and the protection of the public and property versus what is necessary for the crew. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that's an ongoing thing, and like you say, people probably don't realize the depth of what that takes to process that.
Sure, and I go back to the comparative pieces of it. We look to UL and some of the other folks who are doing the scientific studies into these things, and you talk about the clean cabs concept, and moving the SCBAs out of the cab. Now, I'm going to say this, and I may get in trouble from fire engineering at some point, but it was irresponsible of them to put in an article that they put in recently that goes against the actual, not like COVID science, real science, scientific data that they looked at for carcinogens and off-gassing. And so we had the conversation with Brian Jeffries yesterday, who's the president of the PFFA, captain with Mesa, great guy. Yep. And we said, look, we have some people that have concerns about this. What would you recommend that how we approach them? And he said, tell them go get chemo. Yeah. See how they like it. Because Brian, when Mesa was going through this, Brian wasn't part of the conversation at the time because he was going through chemo.
Sure.
And it was a job-related cancer.
Yeah.
And so Brian's very passionate about, anything that we can do that would prevent cancer, we should try to do. And part of that's moving the SCBA out of the cab.
Sure, and I think it's just remembering, obviously from your position, from a position of authority, is the global perspective that we have to take.
Right.
And it's looking at the entire organization, all the different personalities, all the different groups that we have. It gives us the strength as an organization, but it also gives us the conflict at the same time. So it's your job,
right?
To look at all that, and then obviously there's a number of folks below you to help navigate that along the way, but to look at the whole picture and what can we do that is best for the organization, for the employees,
right?
To ultimately serve the public. We want our folks to have a healthy career, to go home happy and return the next day. And there's a lot to that, and obviously there's a lot to have to navigate, just based on the conflict that we see in the profession. I wouldn't change the career I have. I certainly love the experiences I've had, love the relationships that I've built. But at the same time, there's scars that are along the way that we have to learn how to navigate. And that's where the folks that we have coming into this organization, we're bringing them into a team. We're bringing them into a family. And if you want to be a part of that, go apply.
Yeah, absolutely. Come apply for us. And that could lead to, there was a conversation yesterday that happened down in the Phoenix area, and it was Golden Ranch, Tucson, or Golden Ranch Northwest, and CAFMA. And for those who don't know Golden Ranch and Northwest, they're very good agencies down in Tucson, not quite as good as us.
No, they're still striving to.
Yeah, I mean, they may eventually get to our level, and we wish them well. But if you're looking to apply somewhere, we could go through the top 20 reasons why this would be a better place.
Yes.
And, we have more temperate climate too. And right here, I mean, look at this.
Yes, this is very temperate.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to work with this? Forget that one.
That's a good question.
Yeah, don't look at that one. But, and then we talked about actually coming up with the top 20 reasons why you wouldn't want to work for us over, say, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Superstition, Golden Ranch, Northwest, Tucson, and then throwing
just
down
to name a few,
just to name a few, and then throw the gauntlet down and say, okay, guys, here's the link. Watch this. But we didn't do it. However, because of the conversations yesterday that occurred down at the state, down in Phoenix, I felt pretty comfortable pulling Northwest and Golden Ranch out and making the statement.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because that conversation was had.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, I heard about it last night. So, but this is a good family environment. It's a good team environment. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But we don't strive for that because it's not reality, right? We strive to be better tomorrow than we were today as individuals and as an agency. And that's what we expect of anybody that we hire. We want you to have a good long career here with a lot of opportunities. And I think that's one of the things that CAFMA offers right now is with the changeover that we're going to have in the next 5 years, there is significant opportunity if you come here to work to look at promotions and movement and opportunities if you're not a paramedic to get your paramedic.
Oh, yeah.
Technical rescue team, hazardous materials team, working with kids, public relations, being on a podcast.
Yeah. And if you have a good idea, we are not usually one just to shoot you down. We've including the podcast, we certainly here to support.
Yeah. Yeah, you tried to shoot it down.
Yes.
It mainly not because it wasn't a good idea, but because you were going to be part of it.
Yes, that's true.
And I told you to find somebody else for today if you wanted to.
I tried.
I know. Yeah. I pulled up. I saw Tony from Tech Services outside. I'm like, man, if John would have known you were here, you'd be in doing the podcast. Yeah. But I just think we work, for the most part, we work well together. Do we have times where we trip and fall? Absolutely. Yeah. We own those. We get back up. We dust off. We move forward. And we say, okay, we learn from that. Don't do that. Let's do this. And other times, to me, and I wrote this recently, don't dismiss the brand new firefighter's input on something because they may just have a point. And that's where we talk about inclusiveness. Mm-hmm. That ability to have a voice, to say something. And there's been people who have changed my mind in the direction that I was headed. Sure. That may have been firefighters. Yeah. Hey, wow, I didn't think about that. Thank you. Yep. And we'll change it. So we're not so structured and stuck in our ways that we make a decision and that's it. Sure. And we'll adjust if we say, hey, we're trying to get to B, but the direction we're taking's not working. Yeah. Let's adjust. We'll take the good points and move on. So I think we're a good place to work. I believe we are. Jonah, are we an okay place to work? He's the thumbs up from Jonah.
Perfect.
So
he just wants to be done.
Yeah, he wants to be done, and we're gonna conclude this week because Jonah was kind enough to do this late in the week because of some scheduling difficulties, and since he still has to edit it, we want to make it as short as possible for him to make it easy. So, with that, if you have not filled out an application but you want to work for our agency, go to our website cazfire.org. There's a link on the front page where you can pull up and download the application so that you can fill it out and get it submitted. You'd have the opportunity to work with this guy right here, Operations Chief John Feddma. Yeah. And really, you want to work for us. We know it. You know it. Come up here. Put in an application. So until next week, I want to close it with this. Until next week, go to the dictionary, look up the definition of gratitude, and start practicing that in your life.
I like it.